Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dirt Podcast, where we give you a fun and informative behind-the-scenes look at all things Dayton Dragons baseball, including exclusive conversations with players, coaches, and key staff members throughout the organization. This episode is brought to you by Orthopedic Associates of Southwest Ohio, providing the most comprehensive orthopedic care in the greater Dayton area. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined today by the manager of the Dayton Dragons, Vince Harrison Jr. Vince, thanks so much for stopping by for the end of the season here.
I appreciate the welcome or the invite.
So we are at the tail end of the 2024 Dayton Dragons season. It's been an awesome season to watch on the field, obviously. But before we get on to more on the players and the season that was, we kind of want to get to know you a little bit better to start out for the listeners. So for starters, you come from a very baseball-centric family. So obviously you had your own career from 2001 to 2011, 9-year professional career. You hit 292 over that time frame too. So great in your own right, but also your brother Josh, two-time MLB All-Star. Your uncle John, I think, had a playing career of his own. You had two cousins. So what was in the water growing up, or what were you guys eating at family get-togethers or whatever that just breeds MLB caliber baseball players in your family?
I think you said it. I think my very first memory that I kind of could vividly think about I was probably like 4 years old, and just remember being around a bunch of people and it's loud. And I think as I put the pieces together, I was at the '83 World Series watching my uncle win the World Series with the Orioles in. So that was kind of like my first intro. He won the series in '83. Ended up spending some time with the Dodgers. So anytime the Dodgers came in town, we were down the riverfront. He was the starting center fielder on the '88 World Series team. Everyone knows that iconic Kirk Gibson moment. But he played with those guys. So I just kind of grew up watching it. And, as a 10-year-old, I've seen my uncle now. Just that's what he does, and that's all I know. And we were blessed to have some athletic genes ourselves. And honestly, I don't think any of us, at least me and my brother, were thinking baseball would be the end game or like the final career, but it just kind of worked out that way where, I went to college and played two sports and ended up doing it, pro baseball. And Josh was just a small dude who was good at a lot of things, but in high school he was probably 150 pounds when he graduated, but he had some baseball skills, and UC took a chance on him, and then his career just kind of took off from there. And so kind of worked out where we both end up in the same industry, and this has been my life the last 24 years, working in pro baseball, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So you mentioned, obviously, you played both football and baseball in college down at UK. Was there ever a moment where you thought about maybe football was the path you wanted to go down versus baseball, or was it always baseball with a side of football?
Well, the way the scholarships worked, it was always football with a side of baseball.
Fair point, yeah.
But, I think, playing high school football in Ohio, it's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Having an opportunity to go play in the SEC, that was obviously a great experience for me. And the baseball side of it was also just always in play. I think I just got to college playing football, just had a bunch of injuries racking up, kind of wearing me out on the body, and baseball was having some success. Had been drafted out of high school and decided to go to college. So, getting there and combination of football injuries and just trying to find a way to manage my time. After 2 years of doing both, decided to just stick with baseball, and then got drafted the next year.
So we were talking a little bit before we turned on the microphones here too, obviously, and your journey to college. How did you end up at UK versus some other places that you could have ended up going, and how was that? I guess why was that the path you decided to take?
Well, I think the big deal was in high school, I played all three sports, counting basketball, and, I was pretty good at basketball, but my offers weren't the good ones that I wanted. And so it came down, I pretty much could go anywhere for football, anywhere for baseball, and just wanted to go to a spot that was going to allow me to play both sports. I wanted to stay relatively close to home. I wanted to play in a good conference. UK kind of just checked all those boxes where I was able to do both and be close to home. And, I ideally, Ohio State was in the mix, but, I preferred to go south and, getting the experience to play in SEC football and baseball is something that I don't think you can compare much to.
So what is your favorite memory from your actual playing career and playing days in terms of baseball memories? Like when something comes to mind where you're like, man, that was probably the coolest moment as a player before we get to you as a coach.
I mean, there's a lot of them, but I think if I had to wrap it up in one, it would be like my very last game. I was playing indie ball. I'd been playing through some pain, but I was playing up in York, Pennsylvania. My brother was with the Pirates at the time, and can't remember what happened, but in the championship round, we're one game away from winning it all. My parents and my brothers both showed up, and of course they showed up and we got rained out that night. So we had to wait, but I just remember that night hanging out with my brothers and my roommate, and then the next day getting up, and I mean I was on a roll then. I think I hit like 530 in the playoffs. It was something absurd. And I just was kind of locked in so much. And I just remember just getting like 3 or 4 hits and just knew, you know, you get towards the end of the game and you're like counting outs. We're getting close to this. And, oh, man, I just know we're going to win it. I'm going to win the MVP. I'm ready to retire. I'm going to go out like on top. And just all these emotions just came over me and, you know, kind of had the game in hand. But then my team decided to just start putting on runs. And so in my mind, I'm checked out just thinking about getting to this third out and celebrating and start my next career. And I look up and my bat comes up. So now I got a chance to just do like this movie, you know, end with this bang, and bases loaded, like 1 out. Like I said, I'm hitting 530 in the playoffs. I haven't missed a barrel. And I'm just like, let me just hit this ball 7,000 feet and walk off into the sun. And sure enough, my swing got long. I got jammed and broke my bat and popped it up. And I remember just going and sitting in the corner like what is going on? And a couple of my teammates go, bro, we didn't think you were ever getting out, but, you know, you're still going to win the MVP. We're still going to get this thing. So I just remember being overcome with emotion 3 outs later, and then, you know, thinking like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And I think 2 days later, I got called from the Red Sox and the Pirates, ended up taking this job with the Pirates, and I started coaching like that Saturday. So it'd definitely be that last game because there was just this whirlwind of emotions. And, you know, mentally, I'm like, I'm ready to be done if I get a coaching job, but I don't know if I'll get a coaching job. And it wasn't 48 hours later, I had 2 offers on the table. So that would be the one thing if I could pinpoint one memory.
How does it happen that quick? Have you put like feelers out there that you'd like to go into coaching at some point, and people were kind of already on watch that, hey, this guy might be coming available to our organization soon, kind of jump on him as soon as this game's over? Like you said, it was like 48 hours, you have offers already. So how does that whole process work?
Man, it's kind of, yeah, you're right. There's kind of some fillers out there. The irony is the year before when I was still playing and thinking about it, but not really, I got a call from Mike Bell, who's David Bell's brother. He's my boss, ended up being my boss with the Diamondbacks, but just got a random call from him, and we talked about if I ever started that transition, and that was kind of like it. And so I felt like I put that out there the year before, but then I played this whole 2011 season, and I'm like, nobody's calling, nobody's talking, and I guess I'm kind of on the fence, like I want to quit. My feet hurt, my legs hurt, like I shouldn't be taking Excedrin and doing ice tub before stretch, but like that's what I was doing to get through. And it just, it just worked out where, you know, I guess there was some chatter behind the scenes, and I did have my agents kind of working for me. So I'm sure they put in a lot of work there.
How did you decide you wanted to go into coaching in general? Like, at what point did that hit you? Did you have a coach that kind of inspired that in you and was like, hey, you know, sort of took you under the wing or showed you that could be something you'd want to do? Or was there just a day where you're like, you know what, I kind of want to stay in baseball in some capacity, and this is a way for me to do it?
The honest truth is 2004 season, after the season, I broke my wrist, and I got Rule 5 to the Rangers, and I got to Surprise, Arizona the spring of 05, and didn't pass my physical because my wrist wasn't healed, and they told me I needed a second surgery. They gave me the option to stay in Arizona or come back to Cincinnati. And so for me, it was like I had a teaching job that I had an off season, And I'm like, well, if I'm going to just be out of commission anyway, I might as well go back to teaching. And it coincided with it being my brother Josh's senior year. And so the coach, the high school head coach, basically told me, you run the team. And so I would go to I'd go to my teaching job, and then I would do therapy, and then I would go coach my brother. And the irony is we made it to the state that year, and we lost right here on this field his senior year, the day that they were graduating. So when I come up here and look at this field, it brings back a whole bunch of emotions. But yeah, as we were going through that run, I was just it was like my outlet, because I feel like, if I don't get hurt in 05, I think that's probably the year I break into the big leagues. And, for me, going back home was just my way to kind of stay in it. And like I told you earlier, Josh was 150 pounds. I knew he had some baseball skills, but I figured if I was home, I was just going to give him all my energy that I didn't have to put into the game. I put it into him and his boys and his teammates. And the other ironic part about it is it's actually when I met my wife, and she was just there. I worked with her mom. She was just around, and she kind of saw like some changes in us. And I remember one of the first things she told me was like, I know you're working to get back, but I think you were born to be a coach. Like, you were born for this. And she told me that in 2005. And there was a part of me that was like, I don't want to talk to her. Like, I'm supposed to be playing in the show this year. But, I was dealing with injury, and she saw something in me that I probably wasn't ready to see. But, I'm grateful for her to do that. I'm grateful for, my brother and my coach, Rocky Hubbard, who was the head coach at Princeton, for giving me that opportunity to kind of put my energy into the game. And for me, it was kind of self-discovery, because at that point, I'm like, I can give more to the game than actually what I do on the field. And I think I was kind of like a natural leader in the clubhouse, but I never thought like, oh, I want to get into coaching right away. But the timing of it kind of humbled me and put me in a spot where I couldn't think of myself, and I had to like put all my energy into these high school boys. So I think that kind of like upstarted everything for me.
What's the hardest part about the transition from going from a player to a manager, like in that type of role? Because, I mean, I think about it in terms of like, working here or business or something, right? You can be part of the team and then you become the leader of the team. It's like, okay, now there's a new dynamic with all of these people that you either may not have known or you do have a history with. And now it's like, okay, there's definitely a different relationship here. And it's still the game that I love. It's still the game that I grew up around, but now I have a completely different role. So what's the toughest part about doing that?
I think the toughest part is the initial part of saying you're not playing anymore. When I stopped playing, I was 31, and I think I turned 32 that off season. And I took a job with the Pirates that first year, and I was in low A, had a young Josh Bell, who's still playing, Greg Polanco, who was one of our big prospects. But anyway, it was just like a lot of the coaching was hands-on. I had a catcher, Elias Diaz, who's had a really good year with the Rockies. He's been around. But these guys were all young, and all I knew was being so hands-on with the high school kids that I had done 7 years prior. And I was done. Physically, mentally, I was all done. But everything was like, most of the teaching was physical. Like, hey, let me show you how to do it. And so, you have to learn different ways to communicate and get the message across. And I think with experience and time, you learn that you have to learn the ways to share. You got to know who you can push on, who you can, got to stay back on. And it's like the beauty of it is I think it's consistent. Like, it doesn't change, depending on, I've been in 3 orgs, and it's very similar. Like, you have to get to know your players. You have to know what makes them tick. And you have to know how they respond to certain things. So for me, that's the daily challenge, is to continue to build a relationship, build a trust, so that they know that everything I give them is authentic and real, and, they know that I got their best interest at heart.
Do you think it's extremely important to have a playing background to be a good coach or a good manager of these guys? Because your whole coaching staff this year, you have playing backgrounds, obviously. And from an outsider looking in, like, I can't imagine, no matter how hard, like, someone like me would study and be an analytics nerd and all this kind of stuff, you could do it. But if you don't have that firsthand experience of what it's like, what these guys are going through day in and day out, what the situations look like on the field, I just have to imagine it's hard to replicate that for someone that's never experienced it firsthand. Do you think it's a really important aspect of a coach or a manager to have some sort of playing experience at this level?
I mean, I think there's definitely value. And, I think at the end of the day, we all want to help players. And at the end, whatever we can do to get through to them, to help them become the best version of themselves is what matters. Really easy to connect when you have the playing experience and have the ability to kind of share some of your successes. And, a lot of these guys respond to the failure part is when they're failing, and you can share your experience of a time or 12 when you failed and how you got through it and your thoughts and all that, which I've had to do this year, which I think is definitely it helps ease the players' minds, because when you've been in the grind, when you feel like, I'm not that good at baseball. As men, we won't ever say that. Right. We may say it to our friends that we trust, and behind closed doors, man, I'm so bad at baseball right now. But, especially a place like here, man, you come here and you're going to play in front of 7,000-8,000 a night. And you just going to feel the energy from the crowd. So that testosterone kicks in a little bit. And sometimes you need to be able to be vulnerable. I think vulnerability is a big thing with young players. It's not a weakness. It's a weakness if you allow it to be, but allowing yourself to be vulnerable gives you opportunities to learn and, absorb information from other guys. And I think that's where, when you talk about being a coach, like, it allows me to be vulnerable. So when they see me being vulnerable, they don't feel like they're in this boat by themselves. And it's been good. I've had some really good conversations and talks with guys this year, and sharing that soft side and that side that nobody really wants to talk about, I think definitely helps, from saying I've been in your shoes and I know what it's like.
So one final, I guess, coaching question before we lighten things up here a little bit. So at least, again, from someone who watches the game, from someone who enjoys the nuances, especially of minor league baseball, I think there's a big difference. Like the big four sports, whatever, if you're a manager of those teams, it's wins and losses. That is like the end-all, be-all of everything. Where in minor league baseball, yes, that's obviously super important, but you also have to balance this act of player development too, where, the parent club has invested so many resources in these guys, from the draft capital to financial, investments and signing bonuses and all kinds of stuff, and they want to see a return on that investment from an individual level too. So you have a high draft pick come in or something, and they say, okay, yes, obviously we want to see this team win, but I need to see this guy develop, on this track and get to the next step. How do you balance that? How hard is that to kind of say, okay, yes, I know my job here is to, make more wins than losses, and I know I'm supposed to put together a great team, but you also have to balance that with the individual expectations of some of the players that you manage.
Right. Well, I mean, like you said it, like, we're all employees of the team that we work for, and, the number one goal is to have these guys ready for that team. Obviously it doesn't work out that way, where a lot of guys don't make it. Some guys become parts of trades, but, if you look at some of the guys that we have in our org at the top, or even guys that have been through here, they're completely different players from the time they're in Dayton to when they get to the big leagues. And, a lot of things can get like swept under the rug or misled if you don't have these development steps, where, we've got guys with physical tools that can probably parallel a lot of big league players as far as arm strength and speed and, raw power, but the ability to put it together, the ability to know when to show off your arm and when to throw through the cut, right?
Yeah.
When to not think about just hitting a ball 4,000 feet and actually having an approach and stand in the middle of the field, or whatever the situation calls for. So those development things are, it's like, it's like working out in the gym. It's like you go to the gym and you're not going to see muscles right away, but over time you're going to build that muscle, and now you know how to work it and you know how to get it together. So it is very important, and we have to keep that in the back of our mind, or in the front of our mind, honestly. Always thinking of the players first and their career. I think we all want to win, and because winning's way more fun. You get to celebrate together. You get to play songs and dance and make all these memories together. But yeah, man, we got to just, development is always key, because we got to remember this is A-ball and this isn't the end game. And, if these guys are going to be the players that they were signed to be, then we need to develop them in the big leaguers. And sometimes that's teaching a lesson and making sure that they're getting something that's going to help them in the long-term career instead of just something that could potentially be just like a short-term fix to help you win a game here in A-ball.
Yeah. So I have been told from a reliable source before we started this that you are a shoe guy. Someone told me that downstairs you have multiple pairs of shoes that you trade out, obviously, game to game, too. Fans have probably noticed it, too. On any given night, you could be wearing a wide variety of different sneakers out there, too. So how many pairs of shoes do you have downstairs in the clubhouse? And then how do you decide, all right, tonight it's pair 8 over here, right? This is what I'm feeling. So how does that work in your pregame ritual?
Oh, that's funny. So if I were to think off the top of my head, I probably got 10 pair down there.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, when I found out last fall I was coming here, and the first thing I thought was like, let me look online for some black and green shoes that might rock with Dayton. And I found these Jordans in October. So boom, I got them. They've been sitting in my office or in my apartment, or in my closet at our house since the fall. Okay. And then just throughout the winter, just like, well, you can't just have one pair, find another pair of these green and black like skater shoes. Like, yo, those would be nice too. Well, then I was showing another guy in spring, oh, these are like one of my game shoes for Dayton. And then they got the same color in black and orange. Well, I'm like, well, we wear orange on Friday, so let me get the black and orange. And then going through the closet, we just got a whole bunch of shoes that we had in the past. The shoes I'll wear tonight, I got actually back in Portland a couple years ago. Just at this Adidas outlet. It's got a crazy little color scheme. There's some black, there's some bright orange, which matches. There's a little bit of pink in there, but with the pants down, you don't really see it. But just this fusion shoe, they kind of like, anytime I wear them to the gym, people are like, yo, what are those? So I kind of like those. And I just forgot about them and was just cleaning out the closet the other day. So I bring those. And so typically, the Jordans, the black and green Jordans, we'll wear. I mean, they look so smooth with our City Connects, our those gym cities. I wish we could wear those more. But typically, I wear them all the time with that, and then once a week with the with just our home whites, which is typically the Wednesday. I'll go with the skaters on Tuesday, and then I've got another pair of these Nikes that I got back in, I know the year, it was 2016. I was coaching in Visalia. Our team was black and red, and our staff had these same shoes. We all had the same, and we loved them. And then that year we got to the playoffs, and they told us this story about there was this curse on the team, and it had something to do with this alligator escaping a bathtub or something crazy. So all of a sudden in the playoffs, we've got these green jerseys. And so we bought these shoes in September of 2016, and they're black and green because we were black and red. And I'm like, I haven't worn them since 2016. And my wife's on me about these shoes. I'm like, well, I'm a grown man, my feet don't grow anymore, so I've been size 12 for a while, so I just pulled them out. And so I usually rock those on like Thursday. And then then I've got another pair of just these white and green skater shoes, another off-season acquire, just looking for that color scheme. They go well with our green Sundays, so I typically wear those on Sunday. And then there's just a couple other pair of plain black Jordans that I just think match with everything. And Brian Garman saw, so he made me order him a pair too, and he typically wears those randomly. But yeah, I mean, between that and today's players, they also they see it, and some of them got a little Nike money, and some of them have this, and I've been gifted a couple by our players just because they're like, oh man, I see your swag, I got you. And so I always say a lot of the shoes I haven't paid for. My wife don't hear that. She just knows I just got too many shoes. And so I try to keep some of them here so she doesn't yell at me. But yeah, definitely a shoe guy.
So if you got 10 pairs here, how many do you think you got total, like at home and everything?
Oh, I mean, probably 80.
Okay. Have you always been a shoe guy? Like, the East Bay catalog comes like when you were younger stuff and you get so excited for it. And yeah.
Definitely an East Bay guy for sure. I wasn't always honestly a big shoe guy like that. I think honestly between pro balls, now, especially on the coaching side, we go to spring training, and every year I've coached, you'll show up and you get 2 pair for the spring. Yeah. You'll get 2 pair for the season. And the Reds, our guy John Snyder, shout out to him. He is the man. He will, we get probably 2 or 3 pair in spring, and then he sends us a pair. So we came back from a road trip earlier this year. It was about maybe a month or 2 ago. And we come in and we just got these packages in our office, and it's like jumpsuit, and then there's a pair of Jordans. And then so I come home with another pair of Jordans, and I'm like telling my wife, yo, our clubby got this for us. But, so yeah, the shoe game has definitely been amplified over the last few years, but between coaching, getting free pair, and then I spoke before when I was managing in Hillsboro. We had a hookup at the Nike employee store. It was 12 minutes down the road. We would go once a week when we were home, and then had the same deal with Adidas. So the shoe game has definitely gone up, mainly because I had ridiculous deals in Portland for 2 years, and then you factor that in with 12 years of coaching and 2 or 3 pair of shoes there, they can add up. So it's not all my fault, but I will, my response is my foot hasn't grown since I was like 15. So I've been a size 12 forever. So everyone knows I'm a size 12. So if they ever see a pair that they think I might like, they can just grab it.
Add it to the collection.
You know what I'm saying?
So obviously we know the shoe hobby there. What about, I got some rapid fire questions for you. So what's your favorite ballpark snack?
Ballpark snack? Probably just like a Italian sausage with the peppers.
Okay. Yep. Have you had the ones here?
I've had it.
They're good.
What's the one place? They
like Smoky Cart down there.
I can't remember what spot, but
okay.
but yeah. Landon and Clubby and Sammy have brought it down before. Yeah,
they're dangerous.
That's the only thing I've had here, though. That's the tough part about being down there. We don't get to like experience the concessions. So I did ask one day, like, I need to know what's good here, and they said Italian sausage, cool.
Who was your favorite baseball player growing up?
Combination of my Uncle John Shelby, who you spoke on, and then Barry Larkin, actually. And it's why I wear number 13, because my uncle wore 31, Barry wore 11. Being a local guy, I wear 13. I started doing that when I was like maybe 12, and it was just kind of a tribute to play, my way to pay tribute to my 2 favorite players, one of them being my uncle, one of them being the local guy that I just watched up growing and idolizing. How
cool is it? Obviously, Barry's like a rover for the Reds now, too. Like, how cool is it can you imagine, like, talking to your younger self and being like, you're going to be managing a team someday, and your idol is going to be standing right next to you, helping you coach these guys? For sure. I mean, it's still, like, it's so humbling. Going back to last spring when I first showed up, first day of spring training, my locker's right next to his and right across from Eric Davis. And in my head, I'm like, oh, these dudes will show up for, like, a week. Well, Barry was there, like, day 2 from the rest of the year. And then, I saw him. He came to Louisville once last year, and we spent some time, but he's been here twice this year. And, just the amount of conversation and the knowledge sitting in the office, my kids and family have got to meet him, and he's just been extra gracious, like signing stuff and just hanging out. So I've got to know Barry on a closer level, and, he's been very, very, very helpful just to me, just to, I think we all want to learn and continue to get better. And I'm like, dude, he knows the story of why I wear 13. Yeah. It was like, if I didn't have an uncle, I'd wear number 11, but I love my blood. You know what I mean? I love my uncle. But yeah, man, it's a trip, because I did, I did meet him when I was, we both played for Midland down in Cincinnati. I met him when I was in high school because we had the same summer league coach. And, he's just very, very friendly, very open, goes above and beyond to like make people feel good and gives his time. So I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've had to spend some time with him and just chop it up. It's been great. That's cool. What would your walk-up song be if you had to pick one now?
Right now? Ooh. I mean, there's a whole catalog I can choose from. I think about the songs I came out to when I played. There's one song I just love. It used to be my like ringback tone. It's called "Cool" by Anthony Hamilton.
There's gonna be kids listening to this that have no idea what a ringback tone is.
That's right. That's right. Anthony Hamilton, "Cool." That was my song. It just basically says, if you're cool, then I'm cool, then we're cool. But I did randomly, I'd listen to my phone on random. And the other day, one of my songs came out. It was a song by Jamie Foxx and Justin Timberlake and T.I. It's called I'm a Winner.
Yep.
And that was one of my walkouts back in like 2010. So every time I hear that, I feel like, oh man, that's, if I was still playing, I would probably still rock out to that one, because it's like Justin says, I feel like I can't miss, you know, and it's just one of those good vibe songs.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
Probably Coming to America.
Okay, good one.
The original.
Yep. What's your least favorite food?
Eggs.
Any type of eggs? Like,
I just don't,
no eggs.
I don't eat eggs. Like, I'm
not scrambled, no omelets, no
like,
nothing.
Like, I'm like even picky. If I go to the hibachi joint, I'm like, yo, can y'all
don't put them eggs
can
in
you
there.
take them off? Or if, like, you don't have to take them out, but if there's a table full of 10 of us,
yeah,
I'm like, yo, I'll just pick them out. But if it's like, I'm like, yo, can we do that with no eggs? You know?
Interesting.
And it's crazy. I know. It's like,
there's so many different ways to make them too.
I,
It's just like, nope,
I tried to force myself to eat every year for like 2014 to like 2018. I would go to spring training like, I'm going to try and I'm going to make it happen, and it's not happening.
Ugh.
It's not happening. So the best way, if you want me to eat eggs, just scramble that thing up in the hibachi, throw some rice and a whole bunch in there, you know. Yeah, chop it up fine now. Don't get, if I see it, I'm probably going to pick it out.
All right, and then favorite musical artist of all time?
Oh, I mean, all time, there's so many options. I wouldn't, all time, that's a tough one. I mean, I grew up, everyone likes Michael Jackson, like Justin Timberlake, like Bruno Mars. I mean, I'm a big
smooth stuff.
Yeah, I love R&B. I do. When I played, I listened to R&B before the game. I used to listen to Alicia Keys before I played.
There you go.
Yeah. When I was, I think, a rookie year, I was in New York City walking down Times Square, and this guy grabbed me and my roommates and like, what you guys doing up here? Y'all visitors? And we told him, oh, yeah, we play baseball. We were playing in upstate New York, Hudson Valley, but we had an off day. And this guy says, y'all like music? And we go, yeah, of course we like music. He's like, hey, I want you to buy this girl's CD, man. She's going to blow up, man. I promise you it'll be worth it. And we were like, all right, this dude sells us her CD for $2.
Alicia Keys,
$2. This guy, we buy this CD on the streets and walking down Broadway, Times Square. So I buy this Alicia Keys CD, and this is back in the day when we just had Walkmans and CD players, and that was my pregame listening to, and I was just like, oh, it's different. This girl's got good vocals, and she's playing the piano. It was different, and I wasn't even like that. I'm like, I was a football player. Like I said, football, I like get hyped, but I just, something about her music just resonated with me, and I think couple months later, after buying this CD, we'll turn on the TV and there's like, here's the hottest new artist. I'm like, oh, I've been rocking with this girl for a while. So yeah, Alicia Keys, Songs in A minor. That was like my original like pregame play your CD. Now you just tell Alexa
almost
what
like
to
individually recorded, had the name printed on the front of the CD.
You know,
it's probably a collector's item now.
It probably doesn't work. I don't have to find a CD player to put it in, right? Like it's so. But yeah, man, it's hard to find like one artist though. Like, do you have one?
See, I'm one of those guys. I would be embarrassed to show you. Like, if you scrambled my music on my laptop or something, it's everything from like old country to screaming rock to like everything in between. I'm like that's I mean, I'm the same way. I'm variety. Like I'll go from like Alicia Keys to like some gospel music to like next thing you know, I'm Billy Currington must be doing something right. Like, I mean, I ain't got a bunch of country on there, but you just got different moods sometimes. You can't just stick in one little lane.
I mean, you put it on random. You're like, you go from like being in the club to like clapping in church to like singing smooth to like
to a beautiful sunny day out and you want to have an adult beverage and hang out.
And then I'm singing something in Spanish like bailando, you know what I mean? Like, you got to keep the variety for sure.
Well, before we let you go here, just a few quick questions about the team themselves this year as we kind of put a bow on the 2024 season. What are you most proud of with this team in terms of their on-field performance over the course of this year?
I'm so proud of the growth here. Like we mentioned before, we had the youngest team coming in. We're still young from an age standpoint. The things that we've pushed on these guys to make important, from the routines to just the way it the things we think are important to be a professional, not just to be a professional here, but we're trying to develop big leaguers in every aspect of the way. And so one of the things that I really challenge the guys with at the beginning of the year is like, accept this coaching, because what we're trying to teach you and what we're going to teach you is going to put you in a position that when you move up or when you go somewhere else, you don't have to add more, you don't have to change. So we're trying to give you the foundation to be a big leaguer today, which means you're going to do some things that are uncomfortable, which are out of your normal, but if you do them, you'll get better and you will get out of your own way, and you won't be so tied to something that you did before, because, a lot of these guys, the college guys, they only know what they did in college, right? The high school guys, a lot of them probably just did showcases, and depending on the type of level they played at, they don't really have a routine. So we try to help these guys develop routines and understanding of what it's like to be a pro. And I jokingly walk around when I first get to the clubhouse. That's why I'm in uniform now. I want these guys to come here, recognize this is their workplace, and we'll go around and clock in. And so it's always fun when we get a new guy, and the new guy comes in and they go, like today, we got Chipotle. And usually if there's a new guy, they come in and they drop their stuff off at their locker and they go in the kitchen and they're straight to eating. And I'll look at somebody who's been here. I'm like, man, you're not being a good teammate, bro. You let this dude come in here and straight eat. And then, oh, man, go clock in, man. You're at work right now. So it's more of just changing that mindset. And like I said, making them aware that this is their job. And, our job is to prepare you to be, a big leaguer, which means in reality, I'm getting paid to try to help you become a millionaire. And that's the reality. If you can look at it that way, I'm trying to help you become a millionaire, and I don't want you to slack up on the things that you can control. So this team has done a tremendous job individually and collectively on being able to accept that coaching. And big props to our pitching staff, because Garmin he's been such a good teacher, a good leader. He keeps those dudes accountable, and he really just gives them the honest truth. And I think that has really trickled into our whole team. And so just to see what these guys have been able to overcome as far as just their thought process, what they thought before and how they think now, and, playing the game the right way, those are just some of the things that stand out for me.
So like on the field, you just talked about, obviously, and that's what fans see most of the time, right? We see when they take the field and when they leave the field, and that's the glimpse that we get into a Dayton Dragons team. What about off the field? What's the vibe like of this group of guys that you've had this season? Like, we don't get to see the bus trips. We don't get to see what's going on in the locker room or anything pregame or anything like that. What is the personality or the feel of this team?
The feel of this team is, like I said, the pitchers. I mean, if you guys really want some content, have us mic'd up during the game when one of our pitchers is on a roll, because going back to, I think it really started with Javi Rivera, but we get a guy going and all you hear him yelling, he's him. And the guy throws a fastball by a guy and you're like, give me a tick, and then you hear the whole guy, and before you know it, like, here we are as coaches yelling like someone does, oh, he's him. Last week, Edge goes like 5 perfect innings, and he comes out, and the next day we're talking about his outing, and the players like Bryce Hubbard goes, that's Brian edging him, Brian and Connor Burns, like these guys cheer for each other, man. It's so cool, man. And I think that's what people don't get. And probably to a fault, I mean, I love my team. Like I will stand up for them. Anybody in the crowd talking trash about my boys, you know what? You can say whatever you want about me. You start talking about my players, and I get a little fired up, right? Because these dudes, it's hard, man. We don't acknowledge that. Like, it's hard. It's hard to be a pro baseball player. It's easy to come to a game at 7 o'clock and watch for 2 hours and watch young guys make mistakes that you think could be fixed and coachable and have a comment. And my response to that is, you know what, a lot of these days my dudes are lifting right now. Like they've been in the weight room since 1:30, and then we're going to go out here in like an hour, and our pitchers are going to stretch, and then our position players are going to stretch, and we're going to do a team fundy together, and then we're going to do some defense, and then we're going to take batting practice. And then we get to 5 o'clock, and then we take a break, and then we have a meeting with our pitchers, and then we do one with our hitters. And so the preparation that it takes to be a pro is like consistent all day from the moment they get in. That's why we're, stressing clock in and, just do things the right way. And because of that, these guys they cheer for each other. It really does warm my heart, man, because I've been around a lot of groups of guys, but our pitching group specifically, but our team now, I think our team now for sure. And partially that is probably because, like I said, we had a young team and guys are trying to figure it out early in the year. The first month of baseball is tough because it's like sometimes hitters are on fire and pitchers are not on fire, right? And you just get this disconnect. Some guys are really going, and you get off to a good start, you're the man. You get off to a bad start, you feel like so you kind of have people in different directions, but then you get settled in and guys start to kind of become who they are. And now you're not so much worried about yourself. You're just trying to be good and you're doing things for the team. And we've done that. And now we have a chance to play for something special. And so the vibes here are good in our clubhouse because these dudes cheer for each other. And when we've had guys go up and it's almost like little sad face that they're getting promoted because we have such a good, it's like they're happy to get that promotion, right? They're happy that they've earned the right to be considered for the next level. But the feelings that these guys have for each other, the way they cheer for each other, the way they pull for each other, I think it helps them get over their individual performances, good or bad, and just kind of stay focused in on kind of a team mindset, which is kind of tough in minor leagues. Kind of like you said, guys are trying to get to the big leagues. We've seen Rhett Lauder pitch today, who started here with us, right? So when you see stuff like that, it can create some kind of feelings. Guys like, man, I just played with that guy. But if you watch our guys every day, it just kind of slowly grew. It started with a hacky sack. Now every day our warm-up just consists of a soccer ball, and they're seeing how many bumps they can get without it hitting the ground. And we're even better at that. So as of like last Sunday, I think the high number was like 77. And yesterday before a stretch, I go, what do we get today? And they were like 106 or something. So like the fact that they are getting better at that kind of ties in everything because I've always encouraged them to do things together. And I think in today's game, in today's society, right? Like we were talking about me listening to Alicia Keys, right? That's what we did on the bus. We would listen to our own CD player if we had one. If not, you watch the team movie on the bus. Now everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got a tablet. Everyone's got a laptop. And even if you're sitting next to someone, you're not doing anything together. You're just kind of in the same area, right? So the bus trips they're quiet. We used to have to worry about guys being too loud because they're on the back of the bus yelling or laughing at the movie. And now you're just like, I got to go back there and check pulses, make sure the guys are breathing. But I do think it's a unique deal that we have with this group because, yeah, everyone's got their own deal. Like you want to watch your own movie, you want to listen to your own music, but something about being at the field together with this group, they've been really connected most of the year, and it's just been a lot of fun to see just those relationships and those bonds grow.
So I got one last question for you. So obviously you grew up around the area. You're familiar with, Dayton in general, but this is the first full season, where we're saying, okay, we've got an awesome, successful team here. You get to see the fruits of your labor as we come to the end of the 2024 season. What's so special about Dayton as a baseball town, or as you've, got to see, this window into Dayton baseball? How is this different than the other places that you've both played and coached?
I think, yeah, I mean, there's something about just being in a place where you come out and you're going to see people in the crowd. And I often relate this to my high experience, and not to make this other place bad, but when I was in high A, there was most nights we count less than 40 people in a crowd. And it was like, man, I'm just trying to get to double A and get close to the big leagues, but I'm playing. This is a home game. And there's less than 40 people here. And so you come to Dayton and like we look up, like now it's like school's in session and there's Friday night football, and man, there's still a bunch of people here. And you just feel the energy from being at home, and then you get that reality check when you go on the road sometimes, because we'll go to some places where, they're like, oh, there's not that many people there. And we kind of know it's Thursday because you're like, oh, we're in a college town, and all of a sudden it's loud. Okay. Yeah, we know it's Thursday. And then, weekends tend to be better at a lot of places. But being here every day, sometimes, especially in the middle of the summer, you can't tell a Monday from a Saturday, or I'm sorry, a Tuesday from a Saturday. And that's it, because I know Dayton has always been great as just as a town for supporting the sports. And, to call this place home, to say, like, I think a lot of us thrive off the energy of the crowd and look forward to having people watch us work. So this place has been really good for that.
Well, we appreciate you sitting down with us today, obviously, and taking some time to chat. It's been an awesome season to watch on the field, off the field. Dayton's future looks very bright right now, so we're very excited for it. Thank you so much for all the work you put in this team this year. Thanks for everything, and we look forward to more down the road.
I appreciate it, man. It's been a blast. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks, Vince.
Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, that's our episode today. Thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll see you right back here next time for another episode of The Dirt.